The snow fell heavier than anyone had expected that night. The streets of downtown Chicago were nearly empty, the city lights blurred by the whirling white flakes. A thin figure moved through the storm, her steps uneven, her breath visible in the frozen air. Her name was Emily Carter, and she had nowhere to go. Her coat, once beige, now worn and frayed, hung loosely on her, barely protecting her from the bitter cold. Her hands trembled as she clutched an old backpack, the only thing she had left after months of losing everything that once made her life stable. Emily used to work as a waitress at a small diner near the river. She had dreams, not big ones, just enough to get by, to make a small apartment feel like home. But dreams, she had learned, were fragile things. A sudden layoff, medical bills for her mother's illness, and the rising cost of rent had all stacked against her until there was nothing left to hold on to. Her mother had passed 6 months earlier, and after that, Emily drifted, sleeping in shelters, sometimes on buses that circled the city through the night, chasing warmth wherever she could find it. That Christmas Eve, as the city decorated itself with lights and laughter, Emily felt invisible. She watched families hurry past with shopping bags and smiles, lovers holding hands under the street lamps, carolers singing near the square. It all seemed like a different world, one she no longer belonged to. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us share more heart-touching stories like this one. Emily wandered into a quiet park, where snow blanketed the benches and bare trees glowed with strands of golden light. She sat down, exhausted, her body shivering. She hadn't eaten a proper meal in 2 days. Her shoes were soaked through. She looked up at the sky and whispered a prayer, not for miracles, but simply for a little warmth, a little peace. Just one night, she murmured, just one night without feeling cold. Across town, Ryan Whitmore was leaving his company's annual Christmas gala. At only 38, he was one of the youngest CEOs in the city. His name was printed in business magazines, his face often seen on panels and interviews. People called him the man who had everything. But Ryan felt an ache that money couldn't quiet. He had built an empire from the ground up, sacrificing family, love, and friendship for success. His father had passed away before he could see what Ryan had achieved, and his mother rarely spoke to him anymore. She said he had changed, that he had forgotten what it meant to care. That night, Ryan's luxury car waited outside the hotel where the gala had taken place. He looked out at the city through the tinted glass, watching the snow drift across the streets. He had everything, a mansion, a career, influence, but he couldn't remember the last time he'd felt anything close to warmth. His driver asked if he wanted to head straight home, but Ryan shook his head. Just drive, he said quietly, anywhere. As the car rolled through the quiet streets, something caught his eye, a figure sitting alone on a park bench, barely visible under the snow. At first he told himself to ignore it. It wasn't his business, but something, perhaps that faint flicker of humanity he thought he'd lost, made him say, "Stop the car." He stepped out, the cold biting at his face. Emily looked up, startled, her eyes red from the cold and exhaustion. Ryan hesitated, unsure what to say. "Are you all right?" he finally asked. She nodded quickly, even though it was obvious she wasn't. Her lips were trembling, her face pale, and she clutched her bag like it contained her last piece of life. Ryan took off his gloves and offered them to her. She shook her head, embarrassed. "I'm fine," she whispered, but he could see her fingers trembling violently. "Please," he said, his tone soft but firm. "Take." Something in his voice made her obey. She slipped on the gloves, her eyes filling with tears. "Thank you," she murmured. He crouched down so their eyes met. "It's freezing out here," he said gently. "Do you have somewhere to go tonight?" She looked down. "No," she admitted after a pause. There was a silence between them, broken only by the wind and the sound of snow crunching underfoot. Ryan looked around the empty park, then back at her. "Come with me," he said finally, "just for the night. You can warm up, get something to eat." She hesitated, unsure if she could trust him. He smiled faintly, sensing her fear. "I promise you're safe," he said. "It's Christmas Eve. No one should be alone tonight." After a long pause, Emily nodded. Ryan led her to his car, and as they drove through the glowing streets, she couldn't stop staring out the window. It had been so long since she'd been inside a warm car. She sat quietly, unsure what to say. When they reached his house, a grand modern home on the edge of the city, she hesitated at the door, afraid to step inside. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're welcome here." Inside, the warmth enveloped her. The living room glowed with soft golden lights, a tall Christmas tree standing near the window, though it looked like no one had touched it. Ryan poured her a cup of hot tea and handed it to her. She held it with both hands, tears slipping down her cheeks before she could stop them. "I'm sorry," she whispered. It's been a long time since anyone's been kind to me." Ryan looked at her for a long moment before replying quietly, "It's been a long time since I've been kind to anyone." That night, Emily ate a warm meal for the first time in weeks. Ryan listened as she talked about her life, the job she lost, her mother's passing, how everything seemed to fall apart all at once. She spoke with quiet dignity, never asking for pity, never blaming anyone. He was struck by her strength, the way she had endured so much, but still carried hope in her heart. As the hours passed, something inside Ryan shifted. The walls he had built around himself for years began to crumble. He realized how disconnected he had become from real life, from compassion. For years, he had been surrounded by people who wanted his wealth or his name, but Emily expected nothing from him. When it grew late, Ryan offered her the guest room. She protested at first, saying she could sleep on the couch, but he insisted. Before going to bed, she stood by the window and looked out at the softly falling snow. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for tonight." He smiled faintly. "Merry Christmas, Emily." The next morning, sunlight streamed through the curtains. The snow outside glittered like glass. Emily woke up in a soft bed, warmth surrounding her. It felt unreal. For the first time in months, she felt safe. She walked downstairs and found Ryan in the kitchen making coffee. He looked up, smiled, and said, "Good morning." She smiled back, unsure when she had last heard those words spoken kindly to her. Over the next few days, Ryan offered to help her get back on her feet. He arranged an interview for her at a local cafe he often visited, helped her buy some warm clothes, and made sure she had somewhere to stay. But something else grew quietly between them, an unspoken connection, built not on charity but on understanding. She reminded him of everything he had forgotten: kindness, humanity, the simple beauty of helping someone without expecting anything in return. Emily, too, saw a different side of the man everyone envied. Beneath the wealth and success, she found a man who had been just as lost as she was, someone searching for meaning in a world that often forgot what really mattered. One evening, as they sat by the fireplace, Emily turned to him and said softly, "Why did you stop that night? You didn't have to." Ryan looked into the flames for a long moment before answering. "Because I saw myself in you," he said quietly. "I had everything, but I was still empty. Maybe I stopped because I needed saving too." The weeks passed and Emily's life began to change. She started her new job, saved up enough for a small apartment, and began to rebuild piece by piece. But even as she moved forward, she stayed in touch with Ryan. Their bond deepened, slowly, naturally, two broken souls learning to heal together. On the next Christmas Eve, Ryan invited her back to his home. This time, she wasn't a lost stranger on a park bench. She was someone who had found her strength again. As the snow fell outside, he looked at her and said with a soft smile, "Last year you asked for just one night. I'm hoping this time you'll stay a little longer." Tears filled her eyes as she nodded, realizing how far they had both come. That night, the house didn't feel empty anymore. The tree lights glowed warmly, laughter filled the room, and for the first time in years, both of them understood what Christmas truly meant. Because sometimes, the smallest act of kindness, a single night of shelter, a simple gesture of compassion, can change the course of two lives forever. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe so more people can feel the warmth of kindness and hope this season. Special request, comment below. One act of kindness can change everything.